I remember 8 hours later, I'm still sitting there, and I'm sitting in the ready room, and I'd already cleaned up all my gear and it's hanging and drying and all that. But I remember just feeling 8 hours later, I'm still just freaking pumped about this. And to this day, I haven't had an experience that had that long of an adrenaline rush come after me. So it was awesome.
Welcome to the Calm in the Chaos podcast, where we discuss untold heroic experiences and dive into the mindset of the Navy's elite rescue swimmers. Hosted by former U.S. Navy Aviation Rescue Swimmer, Mount Everest solo summiteer, and best-selling author Brian Dickinson.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Dickinson. If you're enjoying these stories, please take a second to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. It helps more people find these conversations, and it keeps the mission alive. And if you want early access to new episodes and to support what we're building, consider becoming a Spotify paid subscriber. Your support means everything. Now let's jump in so others may live. Do you have any questions before we go on?
No, I guess I'm at your whim now. So
That's right.
That's right.
I'm the first crewman.
Okay. Shit.
Wow. So this is so cool. So Joe Pilsl, 9 years of service. You and I were the only two to get winged in our winging party. Small class.
Correct.
HS-10, and served together a couple deployments. So this is the first time that we've, I think, had like an open conversation in 30 years, 20 years?
Since I would say 1998.
Wow, that's nuts. Yeah. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's so cool. I guess for those that don't know you, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Joe Pilsl. I was raised in central Kansas, small town. Graduated high school in 1989. Like a lot of kids in that era, I saw a little movie that some people may have heard of called Top Gun. And
not familiar.
All right. And so I really said, that is for me. I
was it the volleyball scene?
You saw that? It could have been the volleyball scene, the way that they were flexing and all that. That really had me going. But I truly, that came out my freshman-ish year. And I knew that's the path that I wanted to go, except I knew that for me to be Maverick or Goose or any of those, I had to go through college and become an officer and become a pilot. And like a lot of kids, again, my age, I knew I was done with school when we got out of high school. So I had talked to the Navy recruiter December of my senior year of high school. I invited him to my house. After I invited him to my house, I told my mom, hey, the Navy recruiter is going to come by.
Yeah, surprise.
Surprise. And they signed me up and sent me to MEPS, and I talked to the classifier, and I really had no idea what the Navy was about. I mean, this was before the internet, before YouTube, before any of the videos were out there. And in central Kansas,
Blue Jacket manual.
Yeah, right. And that didn't really exist. I mean, there's a lot of Army influence in this area, but there was really no Navy.
Yeah.
And so I knew that the closest thing that I saw on Top Gun were those people that worked on the flight deck. And so I talked to the fella, and I talked to the classifier, and I said, I want to work on the flight deck. And he looked at my ASVAB scores, and he said, well, let's see if we can find you a better job. And lo and behold, I ended up getting a contract to be an AT. And went to boot camp in October of 89. I'm sorry, August of 89, got out in October of 89, and went to what was then called AVA 1 school in Millington, Tennessee. Got orders to a helicopter squadron. Totally nothing that I wanted. I asked for West Coast, F-14s, sea duty. I wanted
Send me to Top Gun, dang it.
Yeah, and I got H3s, shore duty. I did get West Coast though.
Hmm.
And one of my instructors happened to be a Marine Corps staff sergeant. And the command that he came from before he went to instructor duty was HMX 1. And that happens to be the squadron that flies around the president. And he had a lot of cool stories during the Reagan years when he was there. And I said, "Are these good orders?" And he looked at those and he goes, "Oh, helicopters are cool." And I'm like, "Okay." Again, I knew nothing of it. And I
Hmm.
get to my squadron. They put me out in the line shack, and I'm doing all the grunt work that the squadron has. And while I'm out there working the flight line, I see these enlisted guys getting out of the back of the helicopter, and on their helmet, HC-1 was the first helicopter squadron that the Navy had, and the squadron and the helmets had HC-1 on the visor cover, and then SAR was written on there. And I said, "What is that?" I had no idea.
Hmm.
And they said, "Well, we're aviation rescue swimmers." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, we fly around and we are essentially airborne lifeguards. We fly in the back and we get called upon if anybody needs rescued." I'm like, "That is what I want to do. What do I have to do this?" And so I was told, "Hey, you need to spend a little bit of time here at the squadron." And while I was there, I learned that the harder you work, the more the Navy will work for you. And I got every qualification that I possibly could, and I was working towards qualifications even after I got my orders. Um, but they told me after a bunch of crazy adventures during my first 4 years, my second tour I was able to cross rate, and I cross rated to an AW. And at that point in March of '93, I ended up going to aircrew school. I went through rescue swimmer school, through all that pipeline, and lo and behold, I ended up in the class with you at HS10, and we ended up going to HS2 together. And
That's
so
crazy. No, let's
that's how
talk
I got
about
there.
that. That's crazy. That's a long way to get around, a lot of dedication. But it's cool that you went in one direction. You could have went a lot of different directions. If you go in, ask the recruiter what you're going to do. It's a gamble. A lot of people nowadays, they'll say, "No, this is what I want to do," because there's so much information out there.
Right.
The fact that you were disciplined enough to figure that out on the fly and to actually, make it happen. Yeah, I remember you had been in for some time. I was like the junior guy in our HS10 class. So
Right.
let's talk about. So you were a couple classes ahead of me in SAR school. Let's talk about your experience there. How was that?
Sure. So we started off after air crew. I got teamed up on A team class 9314. Don't recall the song that we used to sing for it, but
Thank
we
goodness.
start. Yeah, right, exactly. We started off with 24 Navy guys and 6 Coast Guardsmen.
Mhm.
We ended up graduating 3 Navy guys and 3 Coast Guardsmen, and I only got sent out to the blue chairs one time. And for those that don't know what the blue chairs are, that is a place where you do not want to go. Um, I absolutely had a ball going through air crew and rescue swimmer. It was very disciplined recess, and I really enjoyed that. That's how I looked at it. It was about make sure that you keep the fun going. It was complete and total lock on 24 hours a day. Truly, even when you left school, you went back to your barracks, you ate a disciplined dinner, you re-stenciled your white t-shirts, you pressed your dungarees.
Mm.
Um, it was 24/7 commitment. Well, 24/5 commitment. They were able to give you a little bit of a weekend, which actually helped keep your sanity. But you really had to keep yourself locked
Yeah.
on,
Unless you ended up at
truly the
Rum
entire
Runners
time.
and Teleki was sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened? Why I got sent out to the blue chairs was it was on my first multi. It was the 2-man multi, and I missed the time limit.
Mm.
I blew the time limit, and they said, "Pilsl, go sit in the blue chairs. And I'm like, oh man, this ain't good.
Mm-mm.
And so it was a petty officer by the name of Weinberg. And so hopefully he's on there, and he probably doesn't remember me going through his team or whatnot. But if he does, yeah, it was you. And he basically said, look, we can't have this. You've got to be under the time limit. You did your procedures correctly, but you've got to do it speedier. And what happens if I drop you right now? And I told him, I said, well, I guess I'll go back out to the fleet as a dry crewman. And that's not what I want to do. I came here to be a wet crewman, and that's what I'm here for. And, in retrospect, I think that's what all those instructors are looking for. They're looking for that person that truly wants to be there. They're going to give you every opportunity to leave. And I would say that happens in arguably any special program in any branch, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, or the Marine Corps. If you're
Or
going
Space
into
Force.
a special, pardon?
Or Space Force.
Or Space Force. I don't know if they have a special program yet.
They're special in general.
Right, exactly. They're going to give you every opportunity to quit, and they want to see if you are going to be there when your number's called. And that's truly all that it is. Nobody in the rescue swimmer community is more special than another. It's just so happens if your number's called, then your number's called. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't step up to do the job that was doing the job in those days.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's well said. So you're sitting in the blue chairs, and that's a moment of reflection. It's going, holy crap, this is the real deal. And,
Yeah.
it's feels like life or death. I mean, you've been to the fleet, so you knew what you could go back to, and at least you had like a rate, and we're undesignated, gonna go scrub toilets.
Right, exactly.
But still, it's your mindset had switched. This is what I want. This is my future. So yeah, talk us through like what was the mindset at that point as far as the lesson learned, because a lot of times these failures are the best thing that can happen to us.
Oh, 100%. I obviously didn't ever get sent out to the blue chairs again. If I'm not mistaken, and I don't really bring this up that often, but I believe I was the only of the 3 Navy guys in my team. I don't believe the other 2 started off with us. I think they rolled into A team. So I was the only guy that actually only spent the minimal time at RSS, Navy-wise, on my team. Now, the 3 Coast Guardsmen, they all started off with us. I think looking back, I don't know what the pipeline for the Coast Guard guys was, but it seemed like they were a little more prepared than the Navy guys were
prior.
Yeah. So, I think it's all a mindset. And like I said, it was pure dedication, from making sure that your stencil was just right, whether it's the number that you have to stencil on there on your front or on your back or on your sleeve, to, you're watching these classes that are graduating ahead of you and what they go through, and you want to be there. You want to be that next team. You want to be that guy that gets the shirt ripped off of you at the end saying, congratulations. You want to be the guy that graduates. It goes through. And in those days, there was a helicopter squadron there at NAS Pensacola, so they could actually do jumps.
Yeah, behind me.
At the conclusion.
That's my actual jump behind me, if you can see that.
Yeah, so that picture, I noticed that's aircraft 403 out of that Pensacola SAR squadron there. So those were exciting days. Those were absolutely great days. I probably shouldn't say what I told the instructor after I did my first jump there at RSS. He asked me what I thought of it, and I probably shouldn't say it because it was a very what's the rating on this podcast?
Okay, crank it up.
I said that's better than. And
whatever's above explicit, I need to get there now.
Okay. Yeah, there exactly. And he goes, "It is, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah." And it was. I mean, that first jump was all the reward that I needed for all the for all the short nights, the long days, the sweat, the tears, the everything that you put into that.
Hmm.
Those jumps were the culmination of just an incredible experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy that they don't do jumps now because there's not a squadron out there.
Right.
Because your son made it through, right?
Yeah, so my oldest boy, he's currently serving, and he's aviation rescue swimmer out in Norfolk right now.
That's so cool.
That is.
It's neat. Legacy continues.
Oh, it's exciting.
Right on. So, okay, from there, you went to SEER. Well, you went to Millington for AW school, went out, did all the acoustic stuff, went to SEER in Warner Springs.
Yep.
How was that?
Oh, another cool part of that was I actually made it to the final objective, and I got my little peanut butter sandwich, and it was the best peanut butter sandwich I'd ever had. SEER was a very eye-opening experience. There's and it seems like now that there's the internet out there and YouTube, and you can again, in those days we didn't have any idea what we were going to expect.
Mhm.
The you'd heard that you're going to get beat in SEER, okay, but you didn't understand why, and you didn't understand all the meaning behind it. And I
Mhm.
don't think really, even after the debrief, because you were so wasted at the debrief, that you
Yeah.
truly got it. And it, it but it was such a rewarding experience where when that class culminated, it was there as well, and you're there, and you're saluting the flag, and you're listening to the national anthem. That was such uh,
Mhm.
uh, just such an emotional experience that it really brought everything home to you.
Yeah. Did you cry?
Oh, absolutely. While we're in the camp and doing that, oh, absolutely.
Oh
You
my
bet.
gosh. You're such a wuss. That's
I know it. I'm a
no,
sap,
there's no one that
guaranteed.
doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
it's intense. That's awesome. So then you go to HS 10, and that's where you and I met and classed
Right.
up. Had some fleet returnees. Cassio was in there too. I remember we shot him
Sammy
with
Cassio was
a
in there for a while.
didn't we shot him with a blowgun or something. I remember we shot him in the leg with a tack and it just bled out. We're like, oh crap,
I
what do
had
we
totally
do?
forgotten about that until you just said that. But yeah, that was funny. That was
If not for
funny.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. What was your experience with 10? I thought it was awesome.
Oh, 10, I think was I think again the carrot at the end of that was truly getting winged. In those days, everybody had already gotten their third class if they weren't already. So I think the carrot at the end of that was truly getting your wings. And that was a great emotional experience. I'm a big advocate in the unofficial winging ceremony. I think it's such a team building experience. It's a welcome to the brotherhood. Um, and I'm not using that as just a guy only for you listeners. I don't have any issue with women doing this job as long as the standards are all the same. Um, the but it's a true welcome to the brotherhood, and it was a proud moment. Um, we're there on the beach, and all the fellow crewmen come in, and a lot of them are instructors that you saw the instructor side of them for the last many months, and all of a sudden you see them as brothers at that point. It's kind of the
Mhm.
first time that you see them truly as brothers. And it was just a fantastic experience. Uh, I'll go hand in hand with there was a master chief down in Pensacola that really helped my son out, and he saw him again in Norfolk, and this master chief came up to him, and instead of being the instructor master chief, he saw a brother swimmer right
Mhm.
there, and he was like, "Oh, it is so great to see you!" And it really kind of stunned my son because my son wasn't expecting to see that guy,
Yeah.
and And that is one of the things that I think our generation got to experience. And I think it's a super important experience to get across.
It's true. Yeah. A lot of times, even like as a kid to your parents, you regress because you're always in that role. And a lot of times that instructor student relationship, it can feel like that. But like you're saying, once you've, crossed that line and now you're all in the brotherhood, it's different. Yeah, it's an interesting. I remember at our winging party, we had a pitcher of beer, had the wings in the bottom.
Yep.
You is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. I don't. I feel like it took me 10 minutes, and you were even screaming at me at some point.
Yeah, I was.
You
Come
were
on,
toasted
Dickie,
by
you can
that
do
time.
it.
You're just like, boom, gone. I'm like, side of my eyes looking like, oh my gosh. I'm trying to pour it out on the side. I just can't. I'm just not I can't do that.
I don't think I could do it there anymore. I can tell you that.
You still have your wings?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, what's great is I live in a small town now, and every Veterans Day, a lot of veterans will put their uniforms on, and I do. I wear my blues every Veterans Day, and
Nice.
we'll have a ceremony at the high school, and it's very small town. It's very it kind of grounds me a little bit and kind of reminds me of yesteryear, so to speak. It's really
Yeah,
kind of fun.
it is really neat. Yeah, yeah, we do the same here. It is cool. And just to have the conversations across, when you're kind of like, we're in our bubble, we're
Yeah.
just a special group, even within the carrier and, whatever. But yeah, once you're out, I think you appreciate just every single, link in that chain because everyone has
Absolutely.
purpose. And so, yeah, so we did a couple deployments. So was, let's see, with Ramon, your man overboard was our first deployment,
It
right?
was our first deployment. Absolutely.
Do
Yeah.
you remember that I was doing an FCF and I landed as that person was falling over and we were just going to launch and you guys were in the air so fast and like on top of them, like I would have been like going down the hoist just with the pilots like below me, and I didn't even have my SAR gear and I was talking him into it. Let's do this. Nope, Joe's on it. So
Yeah.
talk us through that.
Well, so like I just got done saying, and you proved my point right there. I don't care what the rescue swimmer is, that when his number's called, he's going to do the job. And whether it's on that particular deployment, there were two swimmers that got called, but any one of those swimmers that was in our shop, they there's not one of them that wouldn't have done that job, and that's my whole point to that. But that morning, that aircraft that we were in, it was an Alert 15 aircraft earlier, and we had briefed and we decided to, it was early morning, it was like 7:30 in the morning, something like that. And the Alert 15 had been sitting in the ready room for 4 hours at that point, and we decided to be nice and say, hey, we'll go ahead and take the rest of your alert. You guys can go back to bed. So it wasn't but truly a couple of minutes after we took their alert,
Do you
and
remember
they
the
called man
crew?
overboard.
Like who was the crew that you took over? Do you remember?
I don't remember the crew that we took over. I remember my crew would
They
have
probably do.
been, oh golly, I want to say Schuler, Ellis, and Ellis was on Tate's rescue as
Oh,
well
that's
with
right.
the skipper. So Ellis actually got two rescues that particular cruise.
Yeah.
And then Rico and myself were the
Yeah.
crewmen. And I was getting dressed out in the PR shop when they called it away. I grabbed the rest of my gear and I'm running up to the aircraft while the pilot and Ramon were already up there getting everything all put together. And we launched. And as I look back at that morning, it seemed like it was, when you watch the video of it, because the only video that I have of it was the plat footage,
Hmm.
and it doesn't look like it took forever. But while we were in the aircraft, it seemed like it took forever to find the guy.
Hmm.
And he's just out there in a float coat. He was dumping trash, and he slipped and went overboard. And I guess the guy that he was with saw him and called it off. So the carrier made the turn. We launched, got on top of him, went down the wire, and went up to him. Again, I did free floater procedures, and every time that you ever you hear these swimmers and they're going through, it's just you go through the procedures that you train, and that's one of the things that I tell folks that I interact with. You don't train until you get it right. You train until you can't get it wrong. Because when you are called upon to do whatever job that you do, you don't have time to think about, okay, so this is this. No, you don't. You've got to get in there. You got to do your job. You got to do the procedures correctly. So again, he was out there. He had a float coat on. I got up behind him, cleared him of anything, which there was nothing, but I verified that. I called for the hoist. And was towing him back to the hoist, got him in the strop, hooked myself in, and up we went. Got him in the aircraft, sat him in the troop seat right there. And before I could even ask him if he was okay, he was crying his eyes out. He was scared. And who wouldn't be? I mean, that's a life-changing moment, I'm sure, for that individual. And got him back to the ship, and medical was right there to pick him up and take him down and check him out. And so it was an incredible experience. It was adrenaline rush in the exponential form. Yeah. I remember 8 hours later, I'm still sitting there, and I'm sitting in the ready room, and I'd already cleaned up all my gear, and it's hanging and drying and all that. But I remember just feeling 8 hours later, I'm still just freaking pumped about this. And to this day, I haven't had an experience that had that long of an adrenaline rush come after me. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it's neat. And it's a neat place to go back to, just to have that experience anytime you're saving a life, essentially. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's very humbling as well, because you are placed in that moment. Our job is, it's a team effort from a helicopter perspective, but once we're in the water, you're on your own.
You're truly on your own. And that's what these kids that are going through the school, that's what they need to understand is, you are a crew until you're in the water. And when you're in the water, you've got somebody watching you, but you are the man, you are the show, you are everything at that point. And you got to be able to hold your own.
I wonder if your blue seat episode, how that affected your ability to remain calm in the chaos and to just affect that rescue in such an efficient manner. Because I remember from the outside looking in, you were, it was very clinical, very fast, professional. It's like, because if I recall, I think they were doing like a man overboard training exercise, like they were going to throw a dummy over. So it was like confusing. Is this real or is this? And then we saw Joe's going down the wire.
Yeah. So now that you say that, I do remember something like that. There was supposed to be a man overboard drill later that day, like around 8, but this happened again. So the timing wasn't right for the drill, and the boat was pretty good about making sure that they stayed on schedule. So that's absolutely, I had forgotten about that truly until you said that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So would you say there's certain things in our lives where there's pre versions of Joe and then post? Like for me, Everest, obviously, and some of the things, there's it's very, very tangible. Like I can tell a personality difference. Everything else, just the humility can be so overwhelming, where it creates this perspective of forever permanent change. Would you say that that rescue had an impact like that? Hey everyone, this podcast doesn't pay for itself, which is why I launched kick-ass Keep Calm in the Chaos merch line. It's not just about a slogan. It's a mindset, a mission, a way of life. Plus, it's an attention getter. As random people see and ask about your dope gear, it provides an opportunity to share your unique story with others to help spread some calm across humanity. Every shirt, hat, or sticker you buy go straight into keeping this podcast alive, the incredible guests and stories, and the impact of their experiences. Tap the link or visit shop.calminthechaospodcast.com to gear up today. Thank you so much for helping support the mission so others may live.
Oh, I would absolutely say that. I like to put my life in chapters, and and my naval experience, uh, that rescue, or other scenarios that happened throughout all those 9 years, truly were, they're arguably some of the most influential times of my life. I'm sitting here at 54 years old today, and I'm
Wait, is it your
taking.
birthday?
Pardon?
Is it your birthday today?
No, my birthday was back in March. But
Okay.
as I sit here at 54, I'm sitting
Wow.
here
You're
and
crazy old, dude.
I know, right? And I'm looking at it as these 9 years really made such a huge impact on my life, and we're talking all aspects. And at the time, I had no clue on as to what impact they would truly make to me. I was living day to day in those days, and every day was a new adventure, and it was exciting. And some of them were boring, and some of them were hard, and some of them really sucked. But all in all, when I look back, it was just an incredible experience, and it proves to me how impactful that it was. Is because I've been blessed with 4 children. I've got an incredible wife. I've got 4 amazing kids. My 2 oldest kids are serving right now, and they wanted to go Navy because of me. And
Yeah.
one of them have followed directly in my footsteps, and one of them is an air traffic controller, and they're both kicking butt and taking names.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so to really have that come basically full circle back at me, I'm just humbled, honestly, because I've I'm just me. I'm not anything special. I don't look at
Yeah.
myself as
I'll
anything
vouch for that.
special. And yeah, thanks.
No,
And
you are.
but I don't.
You're genuine, and you've always been that way. So just a good person. You've modeled what the experiences that you've had, and for your kids, and they've seen that, and that's huge. And I don't know what your deep past was, but a lot of times we break cycles in our lives, and I don't know if there was any of that for you, but I know that you've always been a very stand-up person, and just seeing you from a distance, we haven't seen each other for a long time, but we still stay in contact. Um, yeah, it's just I'm proud of you for who you are, and we were roommates, and we've seen the good and the bad from each other. So it's just neat to see growth and kind
Yeah,
of where we're at.
thanks. I thank you very much. That I don't like to take compliments well, but anytime that I get them, I thank you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know what to say to that. So thanks.
Of course. Okay. Well, let's not get too sappy. So
Yeah, right. Exactly.
so we did a couple deployments. After that, where'd you go from there? Were you an instructor?
No, actually, when some things didn't go my way towards the end of that tour, and I got a little chip on my shoulder, and I saw greener grass on the other side of the fence, and I decided to cut my Navy career short. And so I had about 2 years left to get my undergrad degree, and I completed that. Got accepted to chiropractic school, and became a doctor of chiropractic. And I've been in practice now for what is this, 2025? So this is 23, 22, 20, 22 years now. Wow.
Nice. So you've probably been like evaluating me the whole time. Like I'm all sitting sideways,
Well,
like
you're lucky. All I can see is your shoulders up. So
one shoulder.
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, operating in a helicopter. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't have a jacked
Oh,
back or
absolutely.
knees. It's nuts. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay, so did you get out in what, 98, 99?
Yeah, 98.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was, a week before I was getting out, I snapped my ACL on a Navy soccer team, so I pretty much, I think, disappeared from everyone, just kind of never really said goodbye because I had surgery. And yeah, I didn't realize like you got out basically the same time I did.
So I'll tell you exactly what happened. Uh, 4 days before I took terminal leave, I got back from an incredible detachment that has some great stories. We took the Kitty Hawk over to Pearl Harbor and cross decked with the Independence.
Nice.
Now, were you on that debt?
Nah,
You weren't on that debt?
I was
Okay.
probably injured at that point.
Yeah, that could have been. And uh, there was there were people like Chris Valdez and Derek Isham and Scotty Best and I I'm sure there were others there, but we ended up uh, doing some things that were truly unbelievable. We went over to this waterfall. I'm going to tell a quick sea story here.
There you
We
go for
went
it.
up to this waterfall, and it's now closed to the public, mind you. But
Because
in
of
those
you.
days, it was not. And as we're walking in, if I remember right, it was like a mile and a half from the parking lot back to these falls. And we had borrowed our ONC had rented a car, and we asked him if we could borrow the car. So we loaded up in this car and drove up there. And as we're walking in, people are walking out saying, "Hey, you don't want to be out here. It's going to get dark soon. You're not going to make it." And we were like, "Dude, it's a mile and a half. We are rescue swimmers. We got this, man." So we hiked out, and we realized on the way there that we were going to run out of daylight. There was just no way that we were going to get there. So we had two choices. We were either going to turn around, go back to the car, and end up at the car right at dark, or we came this far. We're going to go up and see this waterfall. Damn it! So what did we do? We
Of
walked out
course.
to this waterfall, and when we get to water, what do? We go swimming, and we swam, and we had a good time. We got out, and it's starting to get really dark, and there's no twilight in Hawaii.
Mm.
So we were walking, and truly the only way that we made it back, again, we didn't have cell phones in the day, was Indiglo. And Indiglo is that thing that's on your Timex watches, and we were bending down going along the path. Well, we got
Uh,
back to the car, and we had to go, truly, that this is up on the north side of Oahu, and we had to go back down to Pearl. And for those of you that have been to Hawaii, that's a little bit of a drive.
mm.
So we're driving back, and I mean, we're driving fast, and we get pulled over, and we're like, okay, this is not good. We're gonna miss Liberty. We're gonna miss. This is gonna be really bad.
Yeah.
So this cop comes up, and and he's asking us all about it, and we have to get back to Pearl. We're leaving tomorrow on the Independence, and blah blah blah. And he goes, "Well, today's your lucky day, gentlemen. I'm a retired Navy chief, and I'm going to give you a police escort." He gave us a police escort back to the pier.
Wow.
Yeah, and we made it in time. And our
That's so
ONC
cool.
was quite upset with us, and he was super cool. His name was Doug Cuthbert. If he ever listens to this, he was an outstanding guy. Um, and But that was one heck of a story that not many people were privy to in those days.
Yeah. Now we got an exclusive here
Yeah, there you
on
go.
Chaos Podcast. First I've heard of it. That's so funny. Who was driving?
I want to say it was Chris Valdez.
Oh, so he's a rule follower. He's probably staying under the
Yeah, no, no. I think Chris had it pedal to the metal, and he was or pedal to the foot to the
Yeah,
floor. That's what
one
he
of those
had.
things. He was going
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's so cool. Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I talk to Chris every once in a while. I have to ask him about that.
Yeah,
I need to get he and his wife on. Be a fun to get all of them on and have their experiences shared. So you got out, you became a chiropractor. You've been doing
yeah,
that forever and a day.
yeah.
I always say that being a rescue swimmer is the ultimate form of serving. Like you're literally jumping from a helicopter to
Yeah,
save a life that you don't know that's
right.
potentially trying to kill you. How, besides cracking backs and doing all the great work that you're doing, has there been areas of opportunity in your civilian life where you've been able to serve others?
Well, like I said, I live in a small town. So in a small town, when I say a small town, there's about 3,400 people here.
Oh, wow.
I happen to be our deputy fire chief here, so I'm the number two guy on our fire department. I'm also the
Nice.
scoutmaster of our Boy Scout troop here. And
Dude, this was a yes or no question.
yeah, you're never going to get a yes or
So you're
no.
crushing it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I've been on the fire department now for let's see here. It's been 14, 15 years now, and we do everything from fire to rescue to um, anything that a fire department does. We do not do EMS though, so and that's
Mm.
okay with me. Um, but then, as my role as scoutmaster, I get to see some amazing youth and mentor them and ask them to ask more of themselves. And again, it's truly an amazing experience. So it's a wonderful ride that I'm on.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, that's what life's about. You go through the school of hard knocks yourself, and then you're able to just give back and
Yeah,
share that wisdom, and hope to, nudge the next gen, in left or right, in the right way.
absolutely.
But, and you can only do so much. You can't play God, but
Right.
you can still be a disciple and help. That's amazing. Okay, you want to do a hypothetical scenario? You want to be a
Let's
rescue
do it.
swimmer? All
Yeah.
right. Let's do something. You've had a lot of cool experiences, so let's have something you haven't done, I bet.
Okay.
Let's see. How about an Arctic ice flow rescue?
Arctic ice flow rescue. Okay.
Here's the scenario. A scientific research team's boat becomes trapped in shifting ice, forcing them in onto a fragile ice floe that is rapidly breaking apart. Now launch the Alert 30 helo. What's
Okay.
going through your mind?
So the pilots are more familiar with our ice limits and wind limits and all of that. So provided we can actually launch uh, and using the comforts of today's rescue swimmer, I know that they deploy with dry suits now. I don't ever remember anybody deploying with dry suits back in our day.
I think they're
Um,
the illusions we did.
okay.
As yeah, very limited.
Yeah. So obviously you'd be dressed out for pure winter type of and cold weather type stuff. Um, I'd obviously want high vis on everybody involved. You get up there, and if they're off the boat, then you get somebody up there, put them down the wire, uh, and it would essentially be a medevac type situation. Go with it, depending on how many people are there, and what your platform can actually hold. You might need two or three aircraft. If it's one or two people, you could probably handle that all in one aircraft, especially if they're uninjured. There's a lot of variables there that you really have to play, and while you're en route to the scene, you got to make sure that you're able to gain comms if that's available. Understand the situation long before you actually deploy out of the aircraft, and you make sure that your air crew, all four of you or all five of you, depending on your situation, know what the game plan is and know what the end goal is. Um, that I think is paramount to anything that you do. Anytime that you put yourself in a life threatening situation, you need to understand what's at hand. Everybody understands what the situation is and the risks that you're willing to take and that the crew is willing to take. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you've been out for decades now, and your mind can go right back to it. So cognitively,
absolutely.
you're still there, dude. You're doing good. You're 54, but you can still think. That's amazing. And you're right. It's better to have a plan, getting out there, reassess that plan once you're on scene. But the last thing we would ever do is just like blindly just head out. You never know what you're being launched on. That's
You're
just,
right.
you have an idea and it changes as soon as you get out there, but that's why we
Absolutely.
train so hard. I love what you said earlier about, what'd you say? Train till you can't fail.
Yeah. So basically, you don't train until you get it right. You train until you can't get it wrong. And I tell my scouts that on all their basic skills. I tell my fire guys that when you're doing say a rescue knot of some sort, you need to be able to tie it with your eyes closed. You need to be able to tie it with gloves on. You need to be able to do it in the dark. You need to be make it so that you got to do it with loud noises around you. Any type of variable that you can throw
Mhm.
at it, you got to do it so that you can't get it wrong.
Yeah, that's awesome. It kind of just segues right into, you've had so many years of experience that people will never understand. They just can't until you're there. But what type of wisdom would you like to leave the listeners with?
Um, you get one trip around the merry-go-round, and at the end of the day, all you have left are your memories. God willing, you have your memories.
Hmm.
And so, impact as many people in a positive way that you can, and have your story as colorful as possible, um, so that you can look back and smile at truly everything that you've ever been a part of.
Yeah, that's amazing. Such great wisdom, man. If more people did that, you know, even one of the several things that you've said throughout this pod it's just life changing. You can just, yeah, you're right. That merry-go-round goes pretty quick,
Yeah.
and yeah, all you have is your memories. Yeah, so true. Well, Joe, it's been such a pleasure just catching up and having you on the pod. I just want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me, Brian.
Of course, and for everyone else, we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Calm in the Chaos podcast. Please subscribe to be notified of future episodes, and if you enjoyed what you just heard, please leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Until next time, get out there and make a difference so others may live.